There's no easy way around this. The Red Sox flat out stink against the Tampa Bay Rays. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox played a series in the worst stadium in Major League Baseball the last 3 days, and it did not go the Red Sox way. They end up dropping 2 out of 3 games from the Tampa Bay Rays. That officially puts their season record at 72-68. It puts them 5 games out of third place in this division. More importantly, right now, it also puts them only 1.5 games out of last place in this division. It also, for those of you who are still trying to keep track, puts them 5 games out of a wild card spot. And I think the most frustrating part of this series is just the fact that they can't play against the Tampa Bay Rays, which makes no sense because they play the rest of the AL East really well. Against the New York Yankees, they're 8-1. Against the Baltimore Orioles, they're 3-3. And against the Blue Jays, they are 7-3, right? They've been successful against every other AL East opponent, but for some reason, when they play the Tampa Bay Rays, they just flat out forget how to play baseball. So what we're going to do in today's videos, we're going to break down this latest series. We're going to talk about everything you guys may have missed. We're going to talk about the highlights, the lowlights. We're going to talk about what I'm pulling out of this series and what it means for the future of the Boston Red Sox. And we're going to talk about why the Red Sox may just struggle against the Tampa Bay Rays. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. As always, let's start with the offense in this series, and the good news here is that it was a bit of a rookie takeover for the Boston Red Sox. Tristan Casas led the charge. He had a hit in all 3 games, bringing his hit streak up to 13 games now, which is really impressive. He had one game where he was flat out the reason for the Red Sox singular win. He had a 4 RBI game, which included a monster opposite field home run. He had 5 RBIs total in this series, and in my opinion, it's officially time for the Boston Red Sox to start trying to extend Tristan Casas, right? He has proven this year that he is going to be a force of nature at the plate for a very long time. And this is the type of player you want to extend, right? These meticulous, almost over workaholic type hitters that only really care about succeeding. These are the type of hitters that you would love to get on a deal. I think it's time for the Red Sox to start talking to Tristan Casas and trying to get him locked up for a couple of years into his free agency. Outside of Tristan Casas, though, Ceddanne Rafaela got a couple of hits for the Sox in this series. In the one game he started, he had his first 3-hit ball game. He had another double in this series as well, and I'm officially all on board the Ceddanne Rafaela hype train. I was nervous about how his strikeout rate would translate to Major League Baseball, and yes, it is an extremely small sample size right now, and it's hard to take anything from what we've seen from Ceddanne at the Major League level, but he just simply looks like a freak of nature at the plate right now, a guy who can strike out a lot because he makes so much contact with baseballs that he makes up for it. That's what it looks like right now, and I'm all on board the Ceddanne Rafaela hype train again. Super small sample size. We'll see how it sort of plays out in the long run and how pitchers adjust to him, but he's been a ton of fun to watch lately. And Manuel Valdez also had a good series here. He played in 2 out of 3 of these games. He had a hit in both these games, including a home run that was absolutely crushed. This ball was absolutely mashed. He's looked a bit better at the plate this time around since coming up for September call-ups, which is a good sign for the Red Sox. He's a guy who's going to be really interesting to follow along with over these last couple of weeks. What the Red Sox decide to do with him over the offseason based on what he does over these last couple of weeks of the season, where he ends up with the Red Sox or someone else to start 2024 is going to be a really interesting storyline with Manuel Valdez. So that's the guy I'm really keeping an eye on to see how he does both at the plate and on the field over these last couple of weeks. Masataka Yoshida also had a home run this series. It looked a lot like Tristan Casas's, honestly, and it's nice to see Masataka Yoshida have some opposite field power. It's nice to see that power stroke that we saw earlier in the year come back a little bit towards the end of the year. Again, Masa's still fatigued. He's still trying to get used to a full Major League season, so he didn't exactly have a fantastic series, but I think with Ceddanne Rafaela being up, with Wilger Abreu being up, he's going to get some time off his feet, and it's going to help him finish the year strong, hopefully, based on what we've seen over the last couple of series. And outside of that, honestly, thank God the Red Sox young kids came to play in this series, because outside of those guys, it was a really rough series for the Red Sox. They had a total of 47 strikeouts in just 3 games. They struck out 17 times in their last game in this series, which has only happened 3 other times in Red Sox history, right? They struck out a ton in this series, and it didn't help that the first game, they really weren't far behind that record of 17 strikeouts with 16, and then they had 14 in the middle game as well. And I really don't know what's happening to the Red Sox Sox when they face the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know if the Rays pitching is just on a completely other level and the Red Sox can't handle that. I don't know if they just get to Tropicana Field and it's something with the lights or it's something with the movement on the ball that they can't pick up on, but it feels like every time this offense goes up against the Tampa Bay Rays, something like this happens where they have a historically bad series offensively, and I just simply don't understand why, because it's not like this Red Sox team has been known for having a ton of strikeouts this year. In fact, it's pretty much the opposite, right? They've been known for putting together good at-bats. They have one of the best on-base percentages in all of Major League Baseball, so I have no idea why going into Tropicana they just absolutely fell apart. But either way, again, thank God these young kids showed up, because honestly, if they hadn't and everyone sucked in this series, it would have been a miserable experience to watch as a Red Sox fan, specifically offensively. As for the pitching in this series, Bello got the ball in game one. He had a rocky first inning where he gave up 3 earned runs, but he really settled in and flat out dominated after that. His final stat line was 6 innings, those 3 earned runs he had in the first inning on 5 hits while striking out 7. What I loved about this start was Bello's making an adjustment, right? His slider looked really good. He was getting a lot of swing and miss on his slider. And what I really care about going forward, like we talked about before, are the development of these young players. So to see Bello have a start like this is a really good sign to me. I think one of the keys to the 2024 season is how Bello makes the adjustments at the end of the 2023 season. And so for me, these starts, Bello's starts going forward to the rest of the year are going to be really important to watch and sort of analyze and figure out what he's doing and how he's making adjustments. And this was a really great sign in game one. Game two got Cutter Crawford, whose final stat line looks a lot worse than how he actually pitched, and we'll talk about why in a second. But Cutter Crawford finished the game going 3 2/3 innings, allowing 5 earned runs on 3 hits, walking 4 and striking out 5. The walks are simply not very good, right? You can't be walking that many players and expect to have a good outing, but those 5 earned runs is a bit inflated. It's mostly because the Red Sox had 2 errors in that 3 2/3 innings that Cutter Crawford pitched, right? It, one, prevented him from going further into the game because he had to throw way more pitches. I think it was an extra 27 pitches because of errors in this game. And 2, he gave up runs because he could not get the inning-ending play, not to his fault, but to the defense's fault, right? And that's sort of been a theme all year, so I'm not entirely upset with this Cutter Crawford start. I do think the walks were a bit extreme and he needs to get those down, which he's done a pretty good job of this year. But either way, again, I don't think Cutter Crawford deserved this final stat line that he got. Nick Pivetta was the one who finished this one off. He was the legitimate starter. There was no opener here, and this was about as classic of a Nick Pivetta start as you could possibly get, right? The only thing that differs is he didn't go super deep into this game. He ended up going 4 2/3 innings, allowing 3 earned runs. He gave up 2 home runs, which is, again, classic Pivetta. He also was able to strike out 5. Again, I don't think this gets any more Pivetta starty-ish than that. Again, maybe if you went 6 innings, allowed 4 earned runs on 3 home runs, right? That would have been more Nick Pivetta, classic Nick Pivetta. But this was about as pretty classic Nick Pivetta as you can get. It wasn't a terrible start. It wasn't a good start, but I will say he was able to keep the Red Sox in the game for most of the game against a really great pitcher in Tyler Glasnow. So I'm going to call this start a success for Nick Pivetta. But again, this was, I mean, this was just classic Nick Pivetta, right? I don't know how else to say this. Either way, the starting pitching in this series, I think, did their job pretty well. I think they were bogged down by errors, and I think they were bogged down by pitch count. They didn't help themselves with walks and stuff like that, but I think overall, this series in terms of starting pitching was fairly successful. As for the bullpen was pretty good in this series. I think 99% of this bullpen looked really good. One guy who I want to shout out is Llovera, who had, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinions, for his best appearance in a Red Sox uniform in this series. He went 3 innings. He allowed just a singular hit and no earned runs, and we sort of make fun of Llovera a lot. Not make fun of, but we're not very confident in Llovera's ability on this channel and within this community. But Llovera has been very good lately. Over his last 7 starts, he has just a .93 ERA and just a 2.64 FIP. He's been a really successful pitcher for the Red Sox over these last few games, and it's been really nice to see. The only one who really had a bad outing in this series was Kenley Jansen, who came into his 3rd game in a row and ended up throwing a bad pitch, and the Rays walked him off because of it. And to be honest with you, I'm not really going to go in depth into critiquing Kenley Jansen all that much. It was his 3rd day in a row pitching. He's got a bad hamstring, and up until that point, he had 20 plus saves in a row. Kenley's been really, really great for the Red Sox this year. He threw a bad pitch in this game. It's going to happen, right? He's not a perfect closer. No one's a perfect closer, right? It's just how the game works. So I'm not entirely upset with Kenley Jansen in this series. Honestly, they should have won that series before he even got onto the mound. But either way, again, outside of Kenley, I think the bullpen in general was really, really great. They were able to hold the Rays to very few runs in later innings, and that was absolutely fantastic. And I think when we're looking at this series overall, right, it's frustrating. Of course it's frustrating, not because of the Red Sox playoff odds or anything like that, but because it feels like every time they go up against the Tampa Bay Rays, they flat out forget how to play baseball, especially offensively, right? I understand the Rays have one of the best pitching staffs in the league. They have some fantastic, talented pitchers who are very good at getting out, but the Red Sox also have one of the best offenses in baseball, and they just flat out forget how to play sometimes, and it feels like it's always against the Tampa Bay Rays. And to me, that is wildly frustrating, right? That is something that they need to figure out going forward, or they're always going to struggle against the Tampa Bay Rays. But again, there are some good things to pull out of this series. It's not just a whole big pile of stink. There was some good as well, and I think all of that came on the backs of the young players on this team, right? Bayo having the start he had, Don getting a 3-hit game, Valdez looking good, Casas continuing his tear, right? There were some good in this series, and so to me, when we're breaking down this series overall, yes, it was a loss. Yes, it was frustrating, but I'm at the point now where I'm not looking for the Red Sox to win these series. I'm not looking for the Red Sox to continue to beat down on teams. What I'm looking for are individual accomplishments and individual developments, and we saw a lot of that in this series. So to me, yes, it was a series loss. Yes, they stink against the Tampa Bay Rays, but I think overall, when we're looking at the grand scheme of how this affects the Red Sox future, it could affect it in a positive way, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of all this? What do you think of the Red Sox latest series against the Rays? What do you think about their pitiful offense? What do you think about the pitching? What do you think about the bullpen, defense, everything? What do you think about the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below? As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.